to Double Your Sales Now. Today I have a very special guest. Chad McCall and I will be discussing how to sell your high ticket offer over the phone, which I'm really excited about because we're still in an interesting time. We're still in an uncertain time. We're still in a time when face-to-face meetings, aren't as easy to have. So if this is you, you're going to want to take out a pen, piece of paper, get ready to take some notes. So I just want to say, Chad, welcome to the show. Excited to have you here today.
Thanks so much, Ursula, for having me.
We're going to have a lot of fun. We both love selling, so this is going to be an exciting conversation. Before I tell you about Chad, just a couple housekeeping items. If you haven't yet, please leave us a review. If you love the show, and we get emails from you all the time that you're loving the content. So go to iTunes, leave us a review. When you're done, go to salescoachnow.com/giveaway, post your review there, and we have some really special gifts for you. So definitely take advantage of that. Also, if you haven't yet, go to salescoachnow.com/gift. We have a PDF for you. You can download it. It's super easy. 6 secrets to doubling your sales right now. Just something fun and easy to use. Put it on your desk and get re-inspired. All right, and with that, I want to tell you about Chad. Chad McCall has been in sales and marketing for over 20 years. I told you he likes selling, right? You have to love selling or you would just get out of it. He also recently sold his telesales company just last year, and now he's actually doing some work with us behind the scenes in addition to working with some other companies. So it's been a lot of fun to work with him and really pick his brain and see what he knows about teleselling, which is a lot. Chad has personally, and listen to this, sold over 9 figures over the phone. He's also a speaker, author, educator, entrepreneur, and has taken the stage in over 5 countries with a lot of household names. I'm not going to name them all, but you've heard of them. He's also a husband, proud father of 2 kiddos, a 15-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, and he has a French bulldog called Hugo. And just so you know, Chad and listeners, I wanted a French bulldog so badly for so many years. Instead, I have an adorable dachshund now called Bella because our son thought she was so sweet. So anyway, someday I'm going to get that French bulldog. Plus, like many of you, he's attended sales camp as well. So today, he's going to talk about telesales and his background and kind of what's happening in the world right now, and also kind of tie in some of the things that happen at sales camp. So with that, Chad, I'm just so excited to have you here. I want to start out by talking about, this pandemic that we're in, the role that telesales has played, and maybe some of the things that have surprised you about what's going on out in the world right now.
Oh, wow. First of all, Ursula, thank you for having me on here with all your listeners. It's been great actually working with you and just talking to some of the business owners that you're helping. What they're doing is awesome. What you're doing is great too. So thank you for letting me be on here and share this. But this crazy times right now with this pandemic, a lot of people, none of us were prepared for it. And so every business owner, with what has been going on to stay in business involves selling, and the way that they were selling, has totally changed. You're talking some Salesforce and companies that talked to me and said, we were 100% outbound, or we were 90% inbound selling, meaning where, people were coming to them or they were going out. But all of that has just changed, and everyone seems to kind of be hovering out there in this sales cloud, I call it, and they're fighting over how to get attention from the right clients now. And everyone's struggling about really how to do it. How do I get attention? How can I get in front of these people and still make the sales and hit my revenue goals? And some businesses are just, how do I stay in business now? What do I do selling? So it's been really interesting watching what the country's done and what a lot of business owners have done since February this year.
Yeah, we're just in a different time. And I think at the front end of the pandemic, we all panicked, right? What's going to happen? Our business is going to close. And of course, some, and our heart goes out to those businesses that have been severely impacted, who, don't have the way to be able to sell. I was just talking to a client yesterday who's in the live events industry. And they're, some have been able to pivot a little bit with some virtual events and some virtual event support, but so many of them, that's what they rely on. So much so that Congress is actually voting this week on some kind of bill to support the live events industry. So hearts go out to all those industries. Obviously 2020 has changed. There's new strategies. How would you recommend someone pivot right now to use the phone? And I think, I want to talk about Zoom, which we're on right now. How do you differentiate between, should I be on the phone? Should I be on Zoom? What are you seeing out there? What's working? What would you recommend for our listeners?
Well, that's a great question. I've actually never been asked that question or so before about how do I know which one to choose. Um, Depending on who's selling the product, it really, or the service. And I talk about high ticket sales versus just standard product sales. If it's a high ticket offer and you have the ability to do Zoom, then it's going to be great because you're building the number one thing in all of sales, especially high ticket sales, is trust. They have to trust you. And if a lot of times people don't have trust when you're just a voice on the phone. If there's some type of connection that you've had with the client before, then you can avoid doing Zoom calls. And so you got to realize, who are you talking to? And that's kind of one of the things I usually get into when it comes to sales. Who's the person? Who's the client? Who's the prospect? I mean, are they a customer already, or are they a prospect and they're just now brand new into your system or your product or service? So if they've done things before, meaning, they've went into your funnel. See, a lot of guys, and gals that are listening to this, you may have a good funnel right now where it's a book, then it goes to another course or to a training, and you start to take them down a few steps before going to a high ticket sale. And if that's where your end goal is, if they've done several things prior to that, then Zoom may not be as important to them because they have a connection with you. They already know who you are. They can put a sound with the voice, or with who you are, your image. It's familiar and comfortable for them. But if you're going into your funnel early and they don't have relationships, they don't have credibility, you don't have trust, you're going to have to rely on things like Zoom. Zoom is your new face-to-face meeting sometimes with clients. Then asking for a Zoom call too early, with someone, they may not be comfortable doing that either. So you've got the ability to, it's not your first go-to, especially when it comes to Zoom. Ursula. It's one of those where it's your next step. It's a couple steps down when it comes to your conversation, because with the phone, historically, owning a call center for 15 years and been doing this for 20, it takes 7 to 8 contacts to really get someone on the phone. And that's just reaching out to them. So imagine the whole sequence of selling someone into a high ticket. There's about 14 touch points minimum is the average for a high ticket sell to be consummated. So there's exceptions to the rule where you're going to find someone that's going to happen earlier in that, but you're basing your business off of the normal. The normal is going to be, that's how many contacts. You can't say, oh, I'm going to do it in 4 or 5 or 6. No, it's not really the process that you go through. It takes a lot of time to get a hold of someone and a lot of time to put through your own sales process after you've made a contact. So Zoom or telephone, you're going to have the combination of both, but it's also about the timing of when you try to use your Zoom is the best way to put it.
So many things to unpack. I'm taking notes. So let's start with the definition though. How do I know if I have a high ticket offer, and can what we're talking about today help me even if I don't?
High ticket offer in the telesales world is the last step of your funnel. So if you're listening and let's say your funnel is 3 steps now, maybe you have a free offer, then you have a $97 offer, then you have a $997 offer. At that point, your $997 would be your high ticket offer. Now, the question is, how are you selling the $997? What are they doing to get acclimated or indoctrinated into that sequence to see that offer? Is it going to be a webinar? Is it going to be a conference or something like that? So if they've done things to be presented the offer, then that's different when you're calling someone after they've already been introduced to your offer. Okay. High ticket to me is the next step. It's what they haven't been presented yet. So the funnel may have stopped at the $997 offer, but there's additional things that we can do to really help you. And it's for a limited amount of people, because obviously you're having to fulfill a higher ticket offer. So if you have something more where it's a lot more hands-on or it's customized to the client, then that's your high ticket offer. Anything that's going to be beyond that 3rd tier is what your high ticket should be. And then it's packaging that last tier, because you may have 5 or 6 tiers in your offer, but high ticket is going to be the last thing, or the thing beyond what is out there right now going, where they have to have a presentation. They're going to have you or a conversation or something like that to really understand the details of it. Because you can't just put a high ticket offer out there on the internet and have someone read it and say, okay, great. It's like buying a BMW or so. Like BMW just doesn't put all the features on there and click buy here, right? They just, you got to go do what? Drive it. You go to the dealership. They drive you to the dealership to where you can have an experience of that BMW, in other words. So same thing with your high ticket offer. You can introduce it, maybe talk about it, but really able to take action on it isn't something that you can do just immediately. It's getting a conversation to be involved.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people might have panicked when they heard the 14 touches. And I just want you to clarify what those touches can be. They might not all be phone calls, right? It could be, in our business, it could be someone reading my book and then reaching out, maybe coming to sales camp and then coming to one of our coaching programs. So for some, it could be shorter as they have the experience. In only telesales though, like if it's, someone's going from a conversation to another conversation to another conversation to a high ticket, it's going to take more steps because of that trust building. Is that accurate, Chad?
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it, Ursula. Is exactly what you just said. It's the 8 points is a cold call. Just to make sure you guys understand that. 8 points is going from, they may not be expecting anything from you. You're just reaching out. You got an 8-touch cold calling, going after someone, trying to make a contact. The additional touch points from your posts, interaction on your social media, from Instagram to Facebook, anything that they can anchor back to your name or to your products or brand is going to be a touch point. And then when you're following up with the person after they've made a contact, or made a touch point, is what's really important to capitalize on, your additional sequence like telesales. If I were to see someone commenting in a messenger, like in a group message, when I know they're commenting on a post and we're having interaction there, that's really good because you have dialogue. So when you make your follow-up phone call, for example, basing it off of, hey, we were talking in messenger about, blank on that one comment so-and-so made, then now you've taken your cadence down the path a little bit further, where your phone calls, you may only have 2 or 3 phone calls after that point because you've already had several connections prior to that phone call.
Yeah, and so for our listeners, that's really important to think about, because Chad, I think what you're also keying in on is community, really building, when you build a community, and community could be as simple as a Facebook group where people are connecting and having conversations, as they take those steps with you. So Chad, you've been in sales for 20 years, you owned a telesales company, you've been on the telesales floor, you've made thousands and thousands of phone calls yourself. What would you say is the most important thing for people to get started selling high ticket products on the phone? Like what advice would you give them if they haven't done this before?
Ooh, if you are brand new to the phone, the number one thing I would say is, who are you calling? Number one, no, it's knowing the person or the contacts or the prospects, whatever you want to label that group of people, is who are you calling? Now, have they done something with you? Are you calling a group of people that have your widget? That's all you're calling about, is they have this one widget. You don't know anything else about their experience with the widget or whatever. I just want to call people who bought my widget or I gave my widget to. Because that number one thing is who you're calling is people who have my widget. As long as you know that key, that'll help you get started, especially with the phone, because you're calling someone who's familiar with you. And I give an example when I train, sales companies, and I know you do that. You're the same way, Ursula, with me. When I set through sales camp, just like you sales campers listen to this, it's so great to get back to the learning some of the things that you forget. And when you train people and work with individuals, it's almost like when you sit down at a table of 3 friends at dinner, and so there's 4 of you sitting there, and they ask you, well, what do you do? What are you doing now? And you tell your 4 friends what you do now. Totally different, because you're selling them on what you do. You're telling them about the opportunity, why you chose that path, why you do what you do. It's a sell, and you don't realize you're not trying to collect money from them, but you're selling on the concept. You're explaining, they trust your opinion. You're giving feedback. It's a conversation. The same thing if you sit down with 3 strangers and they ask you, what do you do? They're interesting. And one of the great things about sales campers is when we sit down, and, we were there live, we were sitting down talking to people, meeting people, and I was around the table, we were all talking. It was an easy conversation for everyone to have. And the phone can be the same way, having that easy conversation. They know who you are. They've got something from you. You're a like-minded person. Like when you're calling someone about your widget, it's the same thing in that conversation. It's just like you're talking to your friend. It's just like we weren't worried about how perfect our vernacular was. We weren't worried about using big words or anything when you sit down and you have a conversation with someone. And that was what was really interesting in the environment of sales camp. We're comfortable around each other because we're going through training. We have a comfort level. We have a trust level. It's the same thing when you're calling people that have your widget. You're calling about your widget. It's comfortable. They've already done something. If they have that, or if you've given them something, you're calling about the what you gave them, that gift. How was that gift that I gave you? Do you remember the gift, or do you remember the widget? See, that's how you need to approach that conversation. I always say, who are you calling? So know who you're calling. And if they've got your widget, then you focus on that widget when you call them. That's, ask them how they like what they have. Very simple, very easy to get started.
And I think being very authentic is what you're saying as well.
Yes.
Like, and different levels of formality, depending on who you're talking to. It's going to be a little different if you're talking to someone at the C level versus maybe someone that already has something that you've given them, and you are connecting in a different way. So I'm sure there's people out there who are listening right now going, yeah, but that's not me, or I don't think I can sell my product or service over the phone. I think I can over the phone. I think I can only sell in person. But yet here we are in the middle of a pandemic where that's just not quite possible, or might be really difficult to sell with a mask on. I mean, really, like it's a very different connection. I've experienced that with some of the service providers I work with, and on my inability to really connect with them in the same way. So what would you say to them? Someone is saying, I can't sell over the phone. Like there's just no way for me to do that.
Well, you can. And it's what's funny is 90% of all sales are not done in person, and people don't realize that. You may have made a connection, you may have made your introduction, you may have had a meeting, you've done something during the sales process in person, but overall, the sales are handled on the phone, and you don't realize other things are involved with it. The phone is it can be your best friend. It's like Zoom, if that's what you really want to do. If you can't do it, but the world is changing, not just you. And I want people to realize that is everyone is changing. So don't worry about the fact that you say, I can't do it. Their business has shifted. They're already, if you're selling to another business, it's like a C-level business, right? They're already having to focus and shift over and say, hey, you know what? We've got to adapt. We've got to do things differently. We're going to make our vendors have to operate differently. You're joining into that same space. So a barrier has been broken right now. If you are not comfortable doing the phones, right, or calling or cold calling, right now is the best time in the world to do it, because everyone is expecting that. They're expecting that touch point. They're expecting you to reach out to them. They're expecting phone calls. They're answering more phone calls than they normally would, because you know what? If it's someone they knew, they would meet them or text them. People are responding in different ways than what you would think normally, based off of what we're going through here in 2020. And you're going to get better. You're going to have better conversations. You're going to have a lot more conversations, and the phone can be your friend. Just use it. It's easy right now. People are going to answer your call, because guess what? They're having to call out people too, just like you are in their business.
Yeah, that is so, so good. And in fact, many of our clients have reported, even those clients who make cold calls, they've reported that never have people ever answered their phones as much, or called them back, or responded to an email, or fill in the blank. Like, we're in a time when we're all a little bit nicer to each other. I mean, think about it, admit it. Like we're all trying to be, more connecting. We're lonely. we miss conversation. I went to my kickboxing class this week, and I was so excited to see humans, but I couldn't give them a hug, but it was still good to see them, right? So we're in a time where I just think a lot has shifted. And part of what shifted is that just how connected we feel as a human race, right? The whole world is affected by the pandemic. We all have something to talk about and connect on at this moment. And when you come from that place and you remember that people want to hear from you. In fact, the other thing we've shared with our clients, and you know this as well, Chad, is that, when you're reaching out right now, it's okay to check in and say, how are things going right now? Like, just ask an open-ended question, meaning, how are things going with everything that's crazy in the world? They're going to tell you a lot. And if they say things are awesome, green light, like, let's go, let's talk about how we can help you. If they say not so good, let's find out what's going on. Because if you don't address the elephant in the room that's there for them in that moment, emotionally, like, it's pretty tough to support them. So to Chad's point, it's maybe the new belief is there's never been a better time to call than right now. which leads me to another question I want to make sure we asked. I mean, I love picking your brain because you've owned a telesales business. You've been on the phone forever. You've trained and coached people on the phone. You've worked with a lot of our clients to help them get better on the phone. And what would you say, I'm going to throw this at you, so get ready. What would you say your top 3 behind the scenes secrets are when it comes to effective telesales? There it is, everybody. I know our listeners are going to be happy to ask
All
this
right.
question.
Well, first one, I'm going to go back to what I just said is like, who are you calling? Number 1. Number 2, why are you calling them? And having a specific goal for that conversation. And you just said something right there that there's a nugget that I use, and everyone should have wrote that down, Ursula. You said check in. That is one of the most important things. Like right now, I do believe contact ratios are going to be a lot. I mean, I see it right now in calling and working, you know, during the phone right now, this week, it's less calls to make, but it's also, you're have better conversations, your callbacks, you know, the frequency of your calls, you're going to have more conversations with people, because if you know who you're calling and you know why you're calling them, and you have that goal, a specific goal of why you're doing that. And it may be your check-in goal, and say, you know what, maybe I'm going to say check in with people just to see how their business is going this month. And maybe it's a monthly goal, if that's what you want, but that's one specific thing that we do. But I really feel to make these 3 things work, like to know who you're calling, why you're calling, and defining that goal of why you're calling, you have to schedule time to do this. One of the most important things you do at Sales Camp, Ursula, and people, I thought it was the $1 million idea. The best thing in the world is you made people call right there. You made them call. I've been to hundreds and hundreds of events, and there's so many people that talk about, you know, taking action, and you do it. You teach it. People are there taking action and doing it, and the results that they get, and just by taking an action, the goal was to make a call. Like, just start calling people, like, you know, get them through that barrier. Then you start defining, like, now you start to see who you're calling. You know, you start to refine it, and you start to narrow it down a little bit more and a little bit more. And then that's where success comes from. You know, your goal wasn't to say, hey, you know, let's make our calls at Sales Camp and let's close all these deals. Sales are going to come from it, of course, right? It's just getting to take that action. And then now you've taken an action. That's the easy part, right? Now you go to, who are you calling them? Why are you calling? Define a goal for your calling. If I'm going to set 3 appointments, okay, that's my goal. But that's your goal for the actions that you're taking. What's your goal during the call? That's what I like to have, is a goal during that call, meaning I'm going to check in and see how coronavirus is, you know, hurting these clients or helping the clients, what they've done, you know, today. I'm going to do a block time of, you know, that's one of the things I do. I structure some time. If you guys want to know, I have my 3 things: who I'm calling, why I'm calling, I define a goal, but I block out a piece of time that I'm going to do it. So if it's every day for 90 minutes, I know that I'm going to put my time in making those outbound calls for my check-in, or I'm going to make my outbound calls for setting an appointment, or I'll make my outbound calls for, you know, rescheduling appointments or whatever it may be. But I've got a goal during that time, just so I know that I'm accomplishing and I'm staying on task. But it all started with who I was calling. I want to know who they are. I want to know what they have of mine if it's a product. If they have no product, then okay, then I'm prepared during this time of block that I've set up. Okay, these people have no idea who I am. Okay, great. I'm going to call those specific people. I know who they are. They know nothing about me. I'm going to do introductions now. I'm going to do 90 minutes of phone calling to random, you know, people that I have on my list to make my introductions. And I get comfortable, you know, doing that. So I kind of like going to the gym. You know, you went to kickboxing, Ursula, right? You just said it, but you didn't go to kickboxing to do yoga, right? So, because you stayed focused, they keep you, you went there for a purpose. That's, you know, you knew where you were going and you knew why you were going there. You'll go to yoga tomorrow, right? So that's what you can do as well, to stay really focused and get better at the phone. If you're struggling, you know, if you're worried about how to break into the phone, and right now with 2020, I think like I said, it's easiest time right now to pick up the phone and make calls to people and get interaction with individuals that are doing something with your product or want to know more about your product and how it can help them. Because like you said, checking in's important right now. Letting people know you care. A lot of times, I'm getting a lot of direct mail. I'm getting a lot of postcards and things people are sending to me, Ursula, thank you cards and stuff like that. And I really enjoy looking at them. I like it. It shows that someone, I've made an impact or I've talked to someone, but I also send them out too, just to let people know, hey, everything's great. Hope you're well. And it makes a really good impact with people.
Yeah,
The
that's
little
excellent.
touches.
Yeah, it's so good. And I think the other thing, yes, scheduling is so important. And you shared that, like getting it on the calendar. And also at Sales Camp, we do make real calls and we create scripts, and people get real results in the moment. They get appointments set. And what's so important, I think, and I want to make sure people hear this, especially if you haven't been to Sales Camp yet, or you haven't been in our community very long, is to do it at 50%. We tend to attract a lot of high achievers who want to get that, they want to hit the home run right away. And you write that first sales script, it's not going to be perfect. You make that call, you're going to like bumble through it. And that's great, because that's how you learn. I can tell you when the first time at kickboxing, I was watching other people just, crush it, and their kicks look great and their punches look so strong. And, mine are all over the place. I look like a deer, a newborn deer, just all over, but it gets better, right? So for everyone who's listening, like that's the piece that one of the things that you're probably here to hear is that there's no perfection. Like you just got to get in the game. So Chad, what would you say to someone right now who wants to do this, wants to, get going on this fast? Like just one tip. I mean, is it about mindset? Is it about scheduling? Like the main takeaway at this point, if someone wants to start getting on the phone and successfully making calls.
Don't be scared of the phone. My mind is going to be the thing. I mean, and you talk about the mind a lot, limiting beliefs and everything. It goes back to just that, right? I mean, to be good at the phone and to learn the phone, you said it too, Ursula, is you're not going to like that first script. It's not going to be perfect. And in training people, I said the same thing. You'll never like the first version of you on the phone. You're not going to like your first version. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, record yourself. Or I play back, or I'd record someone's phone call, and they listed, oh, I can't listen to myself. Well, you know what? You have to be able to hear yourself talk or watch yourself. Like, oh, I can't watch myself on camera. I hate it. A lot of people do that. It's very common, but you have to listen to yourself sometimes. You don't know what you say. Like I'll listen to myself after this, or I'll watch this, again, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I said something stupid. What was I doing? I don't know my words. And that's what you're thinking about on the phone is when you hear yourself and you know what you're saying, you train. You're your best teacher too when it comes to the phone. You're going to change. You're going to get better. You're going to tweak, and it's going to come through education. If you're selling for someone else, that's a very common one. A lot of people say, I don't know the product. Well, you have to have more conversations. You got to educate yourself on the product, have more conversations about the product. You will get better because you're getting feedback from people that have the concerns that those are things you should pay attention to. So if I was going to give you a tip, really listen to what you're hearing. That is your script, okay? The feedback that you get, and this it's very high level, but I want to leave the listeners with something that will make them successful for years to come on the phone, is if you listen to the people that you're calling, if it's who you're calling, why you're calling, or if you got a goal, if they don't know you, they're going to give you feedback on why they don't know you. Then you can craft that presentation on how to get them to know you better. Okay. If you know why you're calling and you're calling them for a specific reason and they don't know why, they're going to tell you, they're going to give you feedback of, well, I was calling for widget A, but I don't have widget A. It didn't work. Okay. That's your purpose is going to help you craft a presentation and a talk track about how to get the why. And then the same thing with the goal. If you're not able to get to the goal, then you're going to have to change it. It's like you said, checking in, Ursula. That's your feedback, from what's going on. And it's going to help you with your next conversation with your next client. So coronavirus is killing us right now. Our coronavirus has actually been great. We've cut our costs and our overhead down by 30%. Like my friend that owns several McDonald's out there, he told me just from my feedback and talking to him, I've used over years, his feedback from years of owning those, I've used it. And now he's told me, Chad, our McDonald's, he goes, I've cut my costs down 30%. And he goes, the new McDonald's now from our revenue, from me owning 20 plus McDonald's, he goes, corporate, we're cutting down to smaller McDonald's now. And so what was interesting about that is we're cutting down. We're cutting the size of our staff down. We don't need the inside. We don't need the playgrounds. People don't care about all those things. I was like, wow. So now that I know my feedback that I got, I could start understanding how to craft conversations better with other people. So my tip is listen to the people that you're talking to, regardless of your goal. And that's going to craft your presentation for moving forward. And that's how you get better.
That's awesome. Chad, I want to thank you for being here today and sharing your wisdom, your experience with our listeners. This has been so much fun. And what's really cool is because you are part of our community, because you're one of our listeners, we have a very special opportunity for you with Chad. So each month, Chad's going to offer 10 complimentary reviews. So these are strategy sessions where he's going to review your product, sales funnel, and also take a look at how you can shift to telesales fast right now. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. You have the opportunity to have a strategy session with Chad to review your product sales funnel, to look at opportunities that you might not be seeing, and to review how you can shift to telesales fast right now. So if you want to apply for this opportunity, you can go to www.salescoachnow.com. Again, that's salescoachnow.com/strategy. Okay, salescoachnow.com/strategy. Fill out the information, and Chad is going to do as many as he can, but 10's kind of his limit. So if this is something you want to do, I would jump on this right away, take advantage of the opportunity so you can get that extra support. And you know, this is a $500 plus value. I can't even, one idea from Chad could turn into a lot of revenue in your business. So if you're feeling the pull, go to salescoachnow.com/strategy and take advantage of this. Chad, what else do you want to say to our listeners about this opportunity to have an amazing strategy session with you?
Well, I think the phone is so important for everyone right now. If you're in business, if you're a solopreneur, if you're a wannapreneur, you know, if you're a coach, you know, getting better pull from your sessions out there that you're having with people, brick and mortar, you know, from chiropractors, dentists to, you know, presenters and speakers on stages. The phone is key right now. And also scaling. You may have some questions about, Chad, I'm the only one that can sell my product the way I can. Okay, great. Let's talk about that. Let's figure out how to scale. Let's figure out what you're doing that can change in your offer. A lot of people don't realize sometimes your front really affects your back end ability to do upsells and upgrading. We can talk about that. There's gonna be a lot of things, and I wish I could say it would take me 10 minutes or 15 minutes, or I can do a strategy session in 30 minutes, but who knows? They're probably gonna take hours sometimes, but it's really to help you grow and get through the times that we're in right now, because in 2020, it's not all bad. 2020, you can still have the best goals and hit the results and numbers that you want to hit. It's opportunity is what 2020 has done. 2020 has reset so many people and also reset bad business practices, good business practice, and it's added to businesses that can make it easier and better. And by you being able to do this piece is only going to set you up forever. If people would have known how to sell on the phone years ago before this even happened, guess what? They don't skip a beat, right? And that's what the good thing about it is. You can be prepared for anything, and all it takes is just this little guy right here, phone, and it's with us all the time using the phone. So I look forward to just experiencing your business and talking to you about it, and you sharing anything with me that I can do to help you on the phone.
Awesome. Thanks again, Chad, for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Ursula.
I want to thank our listeners. And so one more time, you can go to salescoachnow.com/strategy and fill out the information. It'll come to us and we'll contact you as soon as we can to get a strategy session scheduled with Chad. And as he mentioned, and this is what we hear from our clients, it's not a 30-minute strategy session. Chad gives you a lot in that time to make the shifts that you need to make in your business right now. So if you're still listening, this is your sign. Take advantage of this opportunity. All right, everybody, that's it for now. We'll see you next week. Take care.